I love my chickens. This is Percy right here, and they can be a huge asset to the food forest if used correctly. But if mismanaged, they can cause more bad than good. So today, I'm gonna go through and show you how the chickens fit in with the food forest. Let's go. If you have chickens, you know that they love to scratch and that they're hard workers. Often, they go right at the base of the plants, so something like a tomato or a blueberry plant with shallow roots can really be negatively affected by all that scratching if the chickens get to it for too long. Just in about 10 or 15 minutes, when the chickens have snuck into the food forest without me noticing, they've done a considerable amount of damage. Chickens definitely have their place in the food forest, but someone like me, who likes to grow a lot of annuals in here, they just tear a lot of that stuff up too much. But if you wanted to do an all perennial food forest, if you had all wooded species like trees and stuff, I would say about the 7th year or so, you could have chickens free range and live in the food forest, and they would actually be beneficial to the forest. They wouldn't hurt anything too bad, but that all depends on the ratio. You can't have too many chickens because they'll start doing damage. The ratio of basically chickens per acre or per size. When the chickens find a spot with a bunch of bugs, they'll really scratch and attack it, ripping out the annuals like that cucumber you can see right here as it just tosses it out of the way. So it's really going for all the bugs here. You can see how successful it is, and it really scratches down through deep and then it picks up all those worms. The thing is, I don't want it eating too many of my worms because I want those to help reproduce and build the soil in the garden. With all this scratching by the chickens, it not only disturbs the annuals, but it also mixes up the soil with the wood chips a lot, which is something that I really don't want. I really don't want the mixing of wood chips with soil because this is what can cause a soil stomachache, and this is how you can get some loss of nitrogen or some tie-up of your nitrogen. And right here, I've got an area that I just chopped and dropped for a few years. This is a lot of raspberry canes, just old raspberry canes from previous years, from just right behind me that I chopped and dropped down here. This, the chickens have never come through. It's been undisturbed. Just the fungus, the mycorrhizal fungi, and all the worms and all the microorganisms are working and breaking this down. So let me show you what that looks like up close compared to the stuff that the chickens are mixing. So let's get in here, see what it looks like. This is with just a natural breakdown, and it's so soft. Look how beautiful that looks. I can see a lot of just little life worms and everything. Again, the ground is so soft. Look at this stuff. Smells so good. This is just no work and natural. That's why I don't have the chickens in here. Every food forest and every garden is circumstantial when it comes to chickens. So the best thing to do is to just run a trial and observe. Observation is one of our greatest skills as gardeners and permaculturists. You need to utilize it as much as you can. So as you guys can see, it wouldn't be beneficial for me to have the chickens in the food forest all the time. They would scratch up too many of my annuals and too many of my young perennials and stuff. But one thing I wanted to make sure was that I would share a large fence of my food forest with the chicken pen. This way, when there were instances where I wanted to chop something down and didn't want to just drop it, but wanted to give the chickens some food, some extra feed, or something, if it was something that I knew that they like to eat, I could just chop it, walk over, and toss it right over here. I don't have to go a far distance or anything, or take a wheelbarrow in order to get the chickens the food that I want to give them from the food forest. So one of the main things I'm doing with the chicken pen is similar to what Paul Gauci does. I'm using it as my soil manufacturing plant, but this is specifically and mainly for my vegetables. The reason for that is a lot of this stuff that's going to be broken down, composted by the chickens, broke down in a quicker process than in the food forest. The main thing that's going to break this stuff down is bacteria. So this is going to be really a compost high in bacteria, or a soil, what I bring in, high in bacterial content, which is ideal for growing annuals and vegetables. While in the food forest, I've got a thick wood chip mulch, and this is a slow breakdown, which is broken down and is ideal for fungus and things like the Mycorrhizae Association, and that's what wooded species like trees love. So wooded species in trees, they love a soil that's dominated by fungus, while vegetables, they love a soil, or herbaceous plants, not just vegetables, they love a soil dominated by bacteria. So that's why I'm using a lot of this stuff from the chicken pen from yard waste and anything extra that chickens just break down. And I'm bringing that in and using them to help grow a lot of my annuals. My chickens eat a healthy diet with a lot of fresh greens. Also, I use no pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides, and no chemicals of any kind. So I know the manure is of a high quality. What I like to do is take the manure from the chicken pen and store it in a bucket, something like this. After that, I'll do one of two things. The main thing I like to do is to just compost that manure down in a regular compost pile. Then I'll create a beautiful soil or compost, whatever you'd like to call it, high in a bacteria content, which would be perfect to put around my annuals to help excel the growth of those annuals or any other herbaceous plants that I have. The other thing that you could do, and I suggest doing, which I haven't really done in the past, but I know is a good practice, is taking your manure and spreading it around the base of your fruit trees. You don't want to use pure manure for something like vegetables because it'll be too hot. It'll burn your plants, it'll be counterproductive to their growth, and could actually even kill them. But around fruit trees, this will be okay. The ideal time to do this would be in the fall, right before the rainy season and the winter season. So what you would want to do is just come through, just layer it. It's so important that you just layer it and you don't mix it in. You don't even want to pull up the old wood chips, that's fine. Gravity is going to work to your favor. So just spread all that manure over those wood chips, something like that. And I have more manure that I'd spread around the base. Then I don't really want to expose manure like this in the garden. I mean, it's just not something I want. So I'll come through and I'll put another thin layer of wood chips, not too deep, but just to cover the manure. And then every time it rains, it's just going to sink through. This way, by springtime, this tree is going to have plenty of food, plenty of nutrition going into the spring. It'll have great growth and it'll produce a lot of fruit for us for next year. The fact that the chickens scratch and they're hard workers isn't a bad thing. It could be a great thing. And as a permaculturist, what you want to do is find all the attributes of something like a chicken and find out how you can use those to your advantage. There are no such thing as problems. All problems can be solutions. It's just the way we're looking at it, the perspective. So I'm going to call some of the chickens in. I'll bring them in here, and I've got a temporary fence set up. That's how I'm going to use them to my advantage. Let me show you how I do that. I've got wild bird seed, that's what I'm using here. I like to feed it to them as a snack. That'll help bring them to where I want to get them. I'm going to remove this and then close them in. Now I've got a few of them in this temporary pen here. Just use some welded wire fencing and some bamboo stakes. They're not going to work hard to try to get out of here. And this is important now because I can take some of their attributes like scratching and use it to my advantage by putting them in a section where maybe you have a lot of ants or something, and you could have them come and eat all those ants, get some protein for the birds, but also reduce the ant population if that's what you were trying to do. And also, by putting them around a fruit tree like this, it's an older fruit tree, so their scratching shouldn't affect the roots. That kind of scratching like that won't really affect the roots, but they're going to be, dropping and going to the bathroom in here. So that manure is going to be concentrated underneath this tree. So we're going to be cleaning out some of the bugs under the tree while also manuring and feeding and fertilizing the tree at the same time. This isn't something that I regularly do because I don't like too much mixing like I previously mentioned. But if you held off on putting some wood chips in and allowed a lot of it to break down and then had the chickens come through and scratch like this in the fall and then put new mulch down in the coming spring, I think that'd be a great practice. Again, this isn't something that I do because I like to also have the balance and have other bugs or whatever come and eat anything that gets in balance. If you have like too many ants or something, I want something to come and eat those. I don't want to have to do the work in a sense of bringing my chickens in here. I want the system balanced as it can be, as naturally as it can be. The chickens seem to be having a blast in here, digging up all the bugs. So I'm going to allow them to stay, work a little longer. That'll bring the other ones in here, give them a turn. How do you guys use chickens to your advantage? If you have any other ways additional to the ones I mentioned. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you in the next one.